I didn't feel anything, I didn't see anything, no white light or anything like that, but, you know, they said my pulse had stopped. And I think I don't do life good. I'm not good at life. And I'm a little bit better at doing a role.
Hollywood nearly broke Al Pacino, mind, body, and soul. One role messed him up so badly, he lost himself completely. We're talking therapy 5 days a week, pretending to smile at red carpets while falling apart behind the scenes. This wasn't just a rough patch, it was a silent meltdown in plain sight. Underneath all the fame and red carpet flashes, there was chaos, mental breakdowns, betrayals from people he trusted, and a massive $50 million financial collapse that hit out of nowhere. Nobody saw it coming. His life wasn't always limos and lights. Al's dad bounced when he was just 2. His mom held it down, doing everything she could. Meanwhile, little Al was that Bronx street kid, fighting, ditching school, even shoplifting just to survive. Acting wasn't even his first dream. He wanted to play baseball, but once he stepped on a theater stage, that was it. Game over. At 17, he dropped out of school, fought with his mom over it, then packed up and dipped out on his own. Dude was broke, sleeping on couches, sometimes even on the sidewalk. He took whatever job he could, janitor, busboy, postal worker, anything to get a meal. But here's the crazy part. He never gave up. Even when the door slammed in his face over and over, he kept showing up. Finally, he landed at HB Studio. That's where he met Charlie Lawton, his mentor, his lifeline, his real one. Charlie introduced him to method acting and flipped his whole mindset. At 23, things started shifting. He got into the legendary Actors Studio, trained under the iconic Lee Strasberg. That's where he learned how to pour his emotions on stage like open wounds, raw and unfiltered. And that's when the magic truly began. Then came The Godfather, the movie, the one everyone knows him for. But let's be real, his rise to that iconic role wasn't some Hollywood dream story. It was more like a setup, dressed up as an opportunity, straight sabotage with a spotlight. He wasn't just almost fired, he was this close to getting tossed before he even had a chance to speak more than a few lines. In his own words, Sonny Boy Pacino spilled how the studio had zero faith in him. They thought he was too quiet, too plain, and straight up not famous enough to carry The Godfather. Execs were pushing for big-name stars like Robert Redford or Warren Beatty. They didn't want a nobody. They wanted fireworks. Francis Ford Coppola had to beg to keep him in the role of Michael Corleone. He literally had to fight the studio just to give Al a chance. And once he got it, the pressure was insane, soul-crushing even. Everything came down to one scene. The restaurant hit on Solozzo and McCluskey. If Pacino fumbled that, it was game over. Coppola knew it. The crew knew it. And Al, he felt that weight heavy on his shoulders. 15 hours. That's how long it took to shoot. Pacino said every take had him mentally falling apart. He was cracking under the pressure. He knew he was one wrong move away from losing the biggest shot of his life. And here's the wild twist. It was that cold, subtle stare that saved him. The exact thing the studio hated. His quiet, low-key energy ended up being the thing that made him unforgettable. After that scene, the haters fell silent. He was locked in for good. Then came 1974. The Godfather Part 2 dropped, and that sealed the deal. The transformation from hesitant son to ruthless boss? Chilling. Critics lost their minds. Some called it one of the best performances ever. Sure, he lost the Oscar to Art Carney, but everybody knew Pacino was him. And with bangers like Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon, he owned gritty 70s cinema. But just when it looked like he couldn't lose, he started slipping. The movie raked in over $250 million, but somehow, Al ended up in debt. Yep, that Al Pacino was getting chased down like he owed rent. Why? MGM slapped him with a lawsuit for ditching a mafia comedy they already had him booked for. They came at him hard, claiming breach of contract like he ghosted them on purpose. He said it felt like being hunted by loan sharks. It was like I was some sort of gambler and the bookies were going to get me. That's how Pacino described it. He had to bring in a squad of lawyers just to escape that contract. And boom, he was $15,000 deep in legal debt too. So what did he do? Al marched right into MGM's top office and begged them to call off the dogs.
This wasn't about ego. This was survival. Straight up desperation. Sonny boy, Pacino said the studio finally agreed. But there was a catch. They wanted first look rights on all his future films. Basically, they had him in a creative chokehold. It was like signing over part of his soul just to get some peace. He had no choice. That lawsuit didn't just hit his bank, it cracked his mental state wide open. And this was supposed to be the start of his golden years.
Yeah, Pacino played tortured characters on screen, but off screen, that pain was real. Sure, The Godfather shot him into stardom overnight, but it also messed up his head in ways almost nobody knew about. He was barely in his 30s when the fame tsunami slammed into him, and instead of living it up, he was falling apart in silence. Pacino said after The Godfather, he didn't even know how to live anymore. People around him were all, "You're rich! You're famous! Just enjoy it!" Even Lee Strasberg, his trusted mentor, brushed it off like, "Just adjust to your new life." But behind the scenes, Pacino was breaking. He wasn't partying. He was unraveling. He wasn't doing a couple therapy sessions to talk it out. Nah, he was in therapy 5 days a week, not for a month, not for a year, for 25 years. That's right, 2.5 decades of battling depression trauma and a total identity crisis triggered by fame itself. And here's the craziest part. He started seeing his own breakdowns in the characters he played. He was choosing roles that mirrored his mental state. Art wasn't just imitating life. It was his life, on screen, raw and exposed. While filming The Godfather Part 2, Pacino looked at Michael Corleone and thought, "This guy's depressed, just like me." And he wasn't wrong. That cold, distant energy Michael gave off, that wasn't just acting. It was Pacino channeling his own mental haze straight into the character. But the role that truly broke him, it wasn't Michael. It was Tony Montana. Scarface didn't just destroy enemies. It wrecked Pacino's peace of mind. That movie was raw, violent, over the top, and totally iconic. But behind the scenes, it shattered something inside Al that never really healed. Playing Tony meant diving headfirst into chaos, pure rage, wild ego, and full-blown paranoia. And all of that? It didn't stay on set. Pacino said it himself. After Scarface, he was never the same. The intensity stuck with him. Once the cameras stopped, the darkness didn't. He couldn't sleep more than 2 or 3 hours a night. Chronic insomnia kicked in hard. He'd start hallucinating, snapping at people for no reason, and his moods were swinging like a wrecking ball. Worst part? Nobody noticed. Why? Because to the world, he was Scarface, loud, tough, unstoppable. But inside, he was falling apart. Years later, he took on a role in The Humbling, playing an older actor, spiraling into depression, having a messy relationship with a younger woman. Sound familiar? That wasn't just acting. He was looking in the mirror the whole time. He even admitted that the character's breakdown drew him in because it felt way too real. This was a man who had lost touch with the very thing that used to fuel him. At the Venice Film Festival, older and more weathered, he confessed, "I may be depressed, but I don't know about it." And that right there, that's the core of Pacino's story. People love calling him a tortured genius, but if you peel back the fame and the awards, you'll see the price he paid. The genius came with insomnia, hidden trauma, and a man barely holding it together while the world cheered. Every role he took, it wasn't just a performance, it was a reflection of what he was fighting through alone. These roles weren't just award bait. They were straight-up therapy sessions on camera. When Pacino played that sleep-deprived detective in Insomnia, he didn't have to pretend anything. He lived that struggle. The sleepless nights, the blurred lines between real and fake, the hallucinations from pure exhaustion. He knew that feeling like the back of his hand. That wasn't acting.
That was his reality, caught on film.
But then came the moment everything flipped. The year was 1980. Pacino took on cruising, playing a cop going undercover in New York's underground S&M scene to catch a serial killer. It was edgy, controversial, and pushed every limit. And the backlash came fast and furious. LGBTQ+ activists came for the film hard. They said it demonized their community and made them look like monsters. And they didn't just protest, they sabotaged production. Air horns, mirrors, protests on set every single day. The tension got so bad, most of the audio had to be redone after filming wrapped. Pacino tried to tough it out, but the damage was done. Critics slammed the movie for being offensive. Audiences were shook. And Pacino? He got quietly blacklisted in certain Hollywood circles.
In Sonny Boy, he later admitted he regretted even touching that role. And in an attempt to make things right, he donated his whole paycheck from the film to charity. But it was already too late. The public didn't want apologies. They wanted someone to blame. And Pacino was it.
Then came Revolution in 1985, and it only made things worse. He disappeared from Hollywood for 4 years after that disaster. The film had a massive $28 million budget and pulled in just $300,000. That's not just a flop. That's movie history's version of crashing and burning. Critics torched it. They roasted his fake accent. Some even called it unwatchable. And for Pacino, it hit like a freight train. The humiliation wasn't just professional, it was personal. He spiraled hard, and just like that, Hollywood's golden boy vanished from the spotlight. He said he felt completely worthless, like his best work was already behind him. From 1985 to 1989, Pacino vanished from the spotlight. Not a single role, not one appearance, nothing. Friends say he was in a deep depression, questioning if anyone in the business would ever respect him again. This wasn't just a break, it was a full-on mental shutdown. So when The Devil's Advocate hit theaters in 1997, people had no idea what he'd already survived. This man had been through lawsuits after The Godfather, outrage from cruising, a mental collapse after Scarface, and a total Hollywood disappearance after Revolution. He didn't just take hits, he got wrecked over and over again. By the time he stepped into the role of John Milton, the literal devil, he wasn't just acting. He was exorcising real demons. Let's talk about that now iconic courtroom monologue. Was he really talking about God? Or was that Pacino calling out the industry that chewed him up and left him for dead? And then, boom, he hits the audience with that mic drop line. That wasn't just a script. That was Pacino venting, throwing shade, unloading pain the public never saw coming. While everyone clapped for the performance, they missed the message. He was telling on Hollywood, and we didn't even catch it. It was devil with a message energy, pure heat. And it perfectly ties back to one cold truth. Behind every legendary role Pacino played was a man just trying to survive the madness. Now let's get into how he ended up broke. Al Pacino trusted the wrong guy. Kenneth Starr, his financial advisor. Huge mistake. Starr was out here secretly running a Ponzi scheme, and he used Al's money to fund his own outrageous lifestyle. We're talking private jets, first-class getaways, and bills that make no sense. One of them, a $400,000 landscaping bill for a house Pacino didn't even live in. He was paying for 16 cars, and he only owned 2. 23 cell phone lines were opened under his name, and he didn't even know. He'd fly to Europe on a whim, rent out whole hotel floors, and just think, it's cool, I'm rich. But it wasn't cool. Because when he finally checked his finances in 2011, after ignoring them for years, he realized the cold truth. Al Pacino was broke. He once said, there's being dead and then there's being broke. For someone famous, that kind of downfall hits different. When the money dried up, Pacino had to do whatever it took to stay afloat. He sold off one of his homes, took on random commercials, and even signed up for roles he used to laugh at. Like Jack and Jill. Yeah, that wild Adam Sandler comedy where he plays a ridiculous version of himself. The pay, $5 million, and that goofy role, it literally kept him from going under.
That wasn't just a cash grab, it was a lifeline.
And as if financial chaos wasn't enough, Al's health has been its own nightmare. He's been battling insomnia for decades. We're not talking a few rough nights. We're talking terrifying, sleep-deprived, hallucination-level insomnia. He said it got so bad, he'd stay up until the sun came up, unable to rest. His memory was shot, his mood swinging all over the place. That's why his role in Insomnia, 2002, felt too real. He lived that struggle.
Then came 2020, and COVID literally almost ended him. Pacino caught the virus and passed out. He flatlined for several minutes. 6 paramedics and 2 doctors in full hazmat gear had to revive him. It was that serious. He didn't see any bright lights, no floating spirit moment. He said when he woke up, it was like coming out of the void. No memories, just blank.
That brush with death? It changed him forever. But wild enough, that wasn't even the first time his life was on the line. Back in the 70s, right after The Godfather blew up, he was at a party, drunk, and accepted a ride home from a fan. Turns out, she was a full-blown kidnapper. In the middle of the drive, she told him point blank, "I'm kidnapping you."
His reaction? Straight Bronx mode. In his book, he said, "I'm from the South Bronx. When I see some crazy person trying to do something to me, I know how to escape." And that's exactly what he did. Escape from a real-life hostage situation like it was just another Tuesday.
He said straight up, "No, you're not. I'm getting out." She told him no and kept driving, but Pacino wasn't playing. He added, "I opened the door like I was about to jump out. I was a little drunk, but I was ready to leap from a moving car if I had to. This ain't happening to me, man." Thankfully, she got spooked and dropped him off. But that moment could have gone way left.
And if you thought his personal life was calm, nah, chaotic doesn't even begin to cover it. Pacino never got married, but he's had 4 kids with 3 different women. Then boom, he became a dad again at 83, yes, 83. This time with 29-year-old Noura Alfallah, a woman who had also been linked to Mick Jagger and Clint Eastwood. Hollywood is small, huh?
They welcomed baby Roman in 2023, and for a minute it looked like a late-life fairy tale. But by the end of 2024, the spark was gone, and the romance was over. What didn't end, though? The money trail. The court hit Pacino with $30,000 a month in child support, plus a $110,000 lump sum, and another $13,000 monthly for a night nurse.
But then came the betrayal. By 2024, Noura had moved on, publicly dating other men, including comedian Bill Maher, while still living that luxury life on Al's tab. People started whispering she finessed him. Some said it was a setup from the start. Others think he knew and just didn't care. Either way, Pacino didn't fight it. He stayed silent, paid the bills, and kept it moving.
Was he in love? Maybe. Was he just too drained to deal with another battle? Could be. But to outsiders, it was giving full-on sugar daddy trap. A Hollywood legend with a baby in his 80s, caught in a whirlwind with a woman half his age and now footing the bill while she lives her best life. That's a plot twist nobody saw coming.
Al Pacino survived Hollywood, but yo, at what cost? His life plays out like a wild movie script, starting out Oscar-worthy, then flipping into a full-blown Lifetime drama. The highs? Unbelievable. But the lows? We're talking near-death moments, being broke as hell, backstabbed by people he trusted, and doing comedy cameos just to pay off landscaping bills for a house he didn't even live in.
Yet somehow, he's still standing. So now the question is Al Pacino a living legend, or is he the ultimate cautionary tale? Everyone saw the cold-blooded Michael Corleone on screen, but behind all the mafia suits and movie sets, he was just a man, crushed by the very system that made him famous, broken, burned out, and just trying to survive in a world that almost finished him.
But here's the wildest part. If you thought this story was messy, buckle up. There's another legend who secretly lost everything, and the story gets even crazier. So go ahead and like, comment, and share if this blew your mind. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories of the icons we thought we knew.
See you in the next one. It's about to get real.